Lyra had always believed what her teachers told her. Humans were dangerous, cruel, and unpredictable. From the earliest age, she had been trained to fear them, to avoid them, and to report anyone who even dared approach. Her homeworld, Veloria, was a society built on precision and control. Every action, every thought, every lesson was designed to keep her and her kind safe from what they called the human threat. Yet, standing on the edge of the forest clearing, Lyra felt a curious pull, something she could not name. The wind whispered through the silver-leaved trees, carrying a scent unfamiliar to her, warm, strange, and alive. Her instincts screamed to turn back, to retreat into the safety of her village. But a small voice inside her head whispered, "Curiosity is not betrayal." She took a cautious step forward. Her heart beat rapidly, a rhythm she had been trained to suppress. The forest ahead was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Even the usual rustle of small animals seemed to have vanished. And then she saw it, a figure moving slowly between the shadows of the tall trees. At first she thought it was a trick of the light, a mirage conjured by her anxious mind. But the figure stepped into a patch of sunlight and Lyra froze. The creature before her was unlike anything she had been told to expect. Not monstrous, not threatening, but human. His skin was tan, hair dark and tousled, and his eyes, those gentle, observing eyes, looked at her with nothing but calm curiosity. "You're not like the others," he said softly, his voice carrying across the clearing without any sign of hostility. Lyra's first instinct was to raise her hand, a defensive gesture taught since childhood, but something about the softness of his tone held her back. She blinked, searching his face for deception. Where is the cruelty? Where is the danger? She wondered. I'm Lyra, she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm Kale," he replied, a small, careful smile touching his lips. "I don't want to hurt you." She stared at him, confused. Every lesson, every story she had been told screamed that humans were cruel. But this human, Kale, radiated calm, kindness, and patience. It made her question everything she had believed. "Why are you here?" she asked finally, keeping her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. Kyle gestured to the forest around them. "I could ask you the same. I was exploring, trying to understand, to learn. I didn't mean to frighten you." Lyra hesitated. The word exploring sounded foreign and simple, yet strangely comforting. She had never been allowed to explore beyond the village boundaries. Her life had been one of rules and restrictions, carefully controlled to keep her from encountering humans. I was told humans are monsters," she admitted almost inaudibly. Kale's eyes softened further. "Some humans can be cruel, yes, but so can many others. Some are kind, just like me. You can't judge an entire species by fear or rumor." The words sank deep into her mind, stirring thoughts she had buried under years of indoctrination. Could it really be true? Could humans be more than what she had been taught? "I don't know if I can trust you," Lyra said, taking a cautious step back. Kale nodded, understanding. "I don't expect you to trust me yet. Trust is earned, not given. But if you watch and see, you might find that I'm not what you were told to fear." For a long moment the forest was silent except for the wind whispering through the leaves. Lyra's mind raced. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every small fiber of curiosity urged her to stay. She remembered the voice that had guided her forward. Curiosity is not betrayal. Slowly she lowered her hand. "Why are you speaking to me so softly?" she asked, genuinely perplexed. Kale tilted his head, studying her with patient eyes. "Because everyone deserves to be heard without fear. You listen to me carefully, so I will do the same for you." His words, simple yet profound, touched something in her heart. It was an unfamiliar feeling, warmth, perhaps even hope. Lyra had never thought humans could inspire such emotions. Fear had always been her constant companion, but now curiosity mingled with something she did not have a name for. As the sunlight shifted and dappled the forest floor, Lyra noticed small things about Kale, how he moved carefully, how he observed the forest with interest, not exploitation. He seemed as much a part of the forest as she was, respectful of life around him. This was not the behavior of a monster. You're different," she murmured. Kyle smiled, though it was not smug or boastful, just honest. "I hope so. But everyone is different. Not all of us follow fear. Some of us choose kindness, understanding, and learning." Her mind whirled. If even one human could act like this, then everything she had been taught might be wrong. She wanted to ask more questions to understand, but fear still lingered at the edges of her consciousness. "I need to go back," she said finally, though she hesitated, not wanting to leave this encounter unfinished. Kyle nodded as though he had expected it. "Go, take your time. If you choose to return, I'll be here. No tricks, no traps, just conversation." Lyra nodded slowly. Her legs felt heavy, as though leaving meant abandoning something precious, yet she turned, retreating carefully through the forest. Every step was measured, but her mind was racing faster than ever before. She felt as if a door had been opened in her mind, one she didn't know existed. By the time she reached the edge of her village, night had begun to settle over the silver-leaved trees. The stars above shimmered faintly, their light reflecting in her wide, thoughtful eyes. Lyra's thoughts were a storm of questions and possibilities. Could humans truly be more than the monsters she had been taught to fear? Was Kale an exception or a revelation? Back in her small home, she avoided the usual bustling sounds of her family, retreating to a quiet corner. She replayed the encounter over and over in her mind, the softness of Kale's voice echoing in her ears. Her lessons, her fears, and her instincts all seemed to collide in a confusing tangle. Then, almost instinctively, she wrote in her journal, Maybe humans are not monsters. Maybe they can be something else." It was a dangerous thought, one that could bring scrutiny or even punishment if discovered, but the pull she felt toward understanding, toward seeing the truth with her own eyes, was stronger than the fear. As she finally rested, her mind still buzzing, a quiet hope took root in her chest. Lyra did not yet understand the full scope of what lay ahead, but for the first time, fear was not the only emotion guiding her. Curiosity, wonder, and perhaps even the first stirrings of trust had begun to bloom. And somewhere deep in the forest, Kale looked up at the stars as well, unaware of the profound ripple he had set in motion, one that might challenge everything Lyra had been taught, and perhaps change both their worlds forever. The next morning, Lyra awoke to the pale light of Vyloria's twin suns. Her small room felt unusually quiet, and yet the air was filled with the echoes of last night's encounter. She sat on her bed, her hands resting on her knees, and tried to make sense of her feelings. Fear, curiosity, and wonder all tangled together like threads she could not separate. Her family moved about their morning routines, but Lyra's mind was elsewhere. She could not stop thinking about Kyle. He had spoken to her without fear, without cruelty, without the harsh judgment her society had drilled into her. Every lesson she had been taught seemed to clash violently with what she had just seen. Humans were supposed to be monsters, but Kale was human, and yet nothing like the monsters she had been warned about. By midday, the pull she felt became too strong to ignore. Lyra left the village under the pretense of gathering supplies from the edge of the forest. Her heart raced with a mixture of dread and anticipation as she walked among the towering silver trees. Each step forward was a rebellion against the teachings she had accepted without question her entire life. She paused at the familiar clearing, where the sunlight broke through the leaves in golden patches. Her eyes searched the shadows, hoping to see Kale again. To her relief, he was already there, sitting on a fallen log and examining the patterns of sunlight on the forest floor. "Lyra?" Kyle greeted softly, standing as she approached. "You came back," she nodded, unsure how to answer. I wanted to see. I needed to." "Understand," Kale smiled gently. "Then you are already learning something very important. Understanding often begins with curiosity, not fear." Lyra hesitated, then sat across from him on another log. For a long while, neither spoke. The forest around them seemed to breathe with quiet life. The rustling leaves, the distant calls of unseen creatures, the faint hum of wind over the silver branches. Lyra felt her tension begin to ease, though her mind remained alert. "Tell me," she began cautiously, "why are some humans cruel? Why are they monsters?" Kale's expression grew thoughtful. "Some humans act out of fear, anger, or ignorance. Some follow what others tell them without questioning. But others? We make choices. Some choose kindness, some choose cruelty. It is not the species that defines us, but the choices we make." Lyra thought about that. On Vyloria, everything was rigid. Choices were carefully guided by society's rules. She had never been encouraged to choose for herself. And yet Kale's words suggested a freedom she had never known, a freedom to act not because someone commanded it, but because one understood and wanted to. I have never made a choice like that, she admitted softly. Then start small, Kale suggested. Observe. Listen. Learn for yourself, not because someone tells you what to believe. His words struck her deeply. For so long, she had been taught to accept everything without question. Now, for the first time, she realized she had a mind of her own, a mind that could see beyond fear. Over the next few hours, they explored the forest together. Kyle showed her how to move quietly through the undergrowth, how to notice the subtle signs of life around them, and how to respect the creatures they encountered. He did not rush her, did not scold her for mistakes. He only guided her gently, allowing her to experience the forest on her own terms. As they walked, Leora noticed small, beautiful details she had never seen before. The way sunlight danced on the leaves, the soft moss underfoot, the delicate patterns of insects' wings. She realized that fear had blinded her to the beauty of the world, keeping her trapped in a narrow understanding of life. Why do you show me these things? She asked finally, curiosity shining in her eyes. Because you deserve to see them, Kale replied. And because understanding the world begins with seeing it clearly, not through fear or prejudice. Leora felt a warmth in her chest at his words. She had been taught that humans were dangerous, yet here was a human who cared for her understanding, who spoke to her with patience and respect. She wondered how many others like Kale existed, humans who could inspire hope rather than fear. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Kale led her to a small stream that shimmered like liquid silver. The water reflected the sky, and Leora could see her own face looking back at her. She touched the surface, and the ripples spread across the water, distorting the reflection in gentle waves. Life is like this stream, Kale said quietly. Every choice, every action creates ripples. Some are small, some are large, but all affect the world around us. You have the power to decide what kind of ripples you leave behind. Leora stared at the water, her mind filled with thoughts she had never considered. Could she truly make her own choices? Could she step beyond fear and see the world as it really was? A sudden rustling in the bushes startled her, and she instinctively stepped back. Kale placed a reassuring hand near hers, not touching but close enough to offer comfort. It's all right. Sometimes fear is necessary, it keeps us safe, but it should not control us completely. Leora nodded, feeling the tension in her body slowly ease. She realized that fear had been a constant companion, but now she could feel something new, a quiet strength, the courage to face what she did not yet understand. As twilight settled over the forest, they returned to the clearing. Kale's eyes glimmered in the fading light. I will not lie, he said softly. Some will try to convince you that humans are monsters. They may even try to punish you for questioning, but you must trust your own judgment. You are stronger than you think. Leora swallowed hard, her throat tight with emotion. I want to believe, but it is hard, Kale nodded. Belief is a journey, not a single step. You take it one choice at a time. She looked at him, truly seeing him now, not just as a human, but as someone who could show her a new way of understanding. For the first time, she felt hope mingling with her curiosity, and she realized that her journey had only just begun. As night fell, she reluctantly left the forest, her heart heavy with both longing and determination. The stars above sparkled like distant guides, and she felt a sense of connection to something larger than herself. Kale had shown her that fear was not the only path, and she was determined to explore the path of understanding, no matter how difficult it might be. Back in her room, Leora wrote in her journal again, I am beginning to see that humans are not all monsters. Some can be kind, patient, and wise. I want to understand them and myself better. The words felt like a promise to herself to seek truth beyond fear, to follow curiosity even when it was dangerous, and to learn from someone who had spoken to her softly, teaching her the first lesson of a much larger journey. Little did Leora know, this small act of questioning would set her on a path that would challenge everything she had been taught, not just about humans, but about trust, courage, and the power of choice. The next few days passed in a strange blur for Leora. Her mornings were spent following the routines her family expected, while her afternoons and evenings were stolen away in the forest with Kale. Each meeting revealed more wonders she had never known existed. The songs of hidden birds, the shimmering patterns of insects in sunlight, the gentle strength of the wind through the silver leaves. Every small discovery deepened her curiosity, and with it a quiet rebellion against the lessons that had shaped her entire life. Yet the pull of her village and its teachings never completely faded. Valoria's rules were strict and whispers of disobedience traveled quickly. Lyra had been careful to keep her journeys secret, but even hidden actions could carry consequences. Fear lingered in the edges of her mind, reminding her of what could happen if anyone discovered her meetings with Kale. Still, curiosity won. She could not stop thinking about him, about what he had taught her, and about the gentle truth she felt growing inside her. One afternoon, she returned to the clearing earlier than usual, hoping to speak with Kale before the shadows grew long. Kale was already there, crouched beside a patch of strange glowing flowers she had never noticed before. Their soft blue light pulsed gently, as though breathing in time with the forest. "You came early," Kale said, looking up with a smile. I couldn't wait," Lyra admitted, sitting beside him. "I keep thinking about what you said, about choices, about understanding." Kale nodded thoughtfully. "It is not easy to unlearn fear, especially when it has been taught so deeply. But you are asking the right questions. That is the beginning of true learning." Lyra watched him carefully. What if someone finds out?" Kale's expression grew serious. "Then you must decide what is more important, obeying fear or following truth. Both have consequences. Every choice comes with its own risk." The warning made her heart beat faster. She had never been one to defy the rules openly, but something inside her, something stronger than fear, urged her to keep going. They explored the glowing flowers together, and Kale showed her how to touch them without harming their delicate petals. The light seemed to respond to their presence, growing brighter with every careful movement. Lyra marveled at the simple magical beauty of it all, and she realized that her world had always been limited by boundaries she had never questioned. As they moved deeper into the forest, Kale's expression shifted. He became quieter, more cautious, as though sensing something approaching. Lyra followed his gaze and saw the faint shimmer of movement through the trees. Not human, but not entirely natural either. "Shadows," Kyle whispered. "They are scouts of the forest guardians. They watch, but usually they do not interfere unless something is wrong." Lyra's heart pounded. "Are they dangerous?" "Not unless they feel threatened," Kale replied. "But they are curious, just like you. Curiosity is not always safe, but it teaches you to be careful." The shadows moved closer, revealing themselves as strange, ethereal creatures with long limbs and glowing eyes. They circled the clearing silently, observing without aggression. Lyra felt a chill, but Kale's calm presence steadied her. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "They are part of this forest. They judge not by what you fear, but by what you show. Respect and patience will protect you more than fear ever could." Lyra nodded, trying to match his calm. The shadows lingered for a moment longer, then drifted away like mist, leaving the clearing peaceful once more. She exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and awe flooding through her. As they continued walking, Lyra noticed something unusual. A small, human-made device partially hidden under a bush. It had sharp edges and emitted a faint hum. "What is that?" she asked, stepping cautiously closer. Kyle frowned. "A tracker. Someone may be following this area, perhaps your village, or another group who fears humans." Lyra's heart sank. They could find us? Kale's expression was grave. "Yes, and they may not understand. They may see humans as the danger and act without thinking. We must be careful, Lyra. Curiosity is powerful, but it can also attract those who fear change." She swallowed hard, realizing for the first time that her journey was not just about learning. It was about navigating the dangers that came with questioning everything she had been taught. Fear, once distant and abstract, had become real and immediate, yet it did not dominate her. She felt a determination forming in her chest, a resolve to continue even when the path was uncertain. For the rest of the afternoon, they moved quietly through the forest, avoiding obvious paths and leaving no trace of their presence. Kale taught her to read subtle signs, broken twigs, disturbed soil, faint impressions in moss. Every detail mattered, and Lyra absorbed it all with intense focus. As the sun began to set, they reached a hidden glade with a small waterfall cascading into a crystal-clear pool. The water reflected the fading light, creating a dance of colors across the rocks. Lyra knelt by the edge, mesmerized, "Why do you bring me here?" she asked softly. Kale crouched beside her. "Because it is beautiful. Because it is quiet. Because sometimes to understand you need a place where the world's noise cannot reach you." She smiled faintly, feeling a sense of peace she had never known, and yet the danger of the tracker still lingered in her mind, a shadow over the serenity. "You were right," she said after a pause. "I feel stronger when I learn for myself. Not from fear, but from understanding." Kyle nodded. "Strength comes from knowledge, from courage, from the willingness to see the truth even when it frightens you. You have that strength, Lyra." The moment was interrupted by a sudden rustle from the forest edge. Both of them froze, eyes scanning the shadows. A figure stepped forward. A young Valorian scout clad in the uniform of the village watch. His eyes widened as he saw them, and Lyora's heart leapt into her throat. "Lyra," the scout called, surprise and accusation in his voice. "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to leave the village?" Kale stepped slightly in front of her, hands raised in peace. "We mean no harm. She is here by choice. No one is in danger." The scout's gaze flicked to Kale and his expression hardened. "A human? Here, you know the rules." Lyra felt the weight of every lesson she had been taught pressing down on her. Fear flared, but this time it was mixed with defiance. She stepped forward slightly, her voice trembling but firm. I'm learning. I'm seeing for myself. Humans are not all monsters." The scout hesitated, clearly conflicted. "That is dangerous thinking. You could be punished, your family. Everyone could face consequences." Kale's calm presence steadied her, and she found herself meeting the scout's eyes with a new courage. "I understand," she said softly. "But I cannot unlearn what I now know. I will not hide from truth because of fear." The scout looked at her, uncertain and tense. After a long moment, he stepped back, his expression softening slightly. "This is not wise," he said finally. "But perhaps I cannot stop you. For now." As he retreated into the forest, Lyra exhaled, her heart still pounding. She had faced the first real test of her courage and survived. Kale looked at her with pride, a quiet smile on his lips. "You see," he said softly. "Courage does not mean absence of fear. It means acting despite it." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and exhilaration. She realized that her journey had shifted from curiosity alone. It had become a test of strength, trust, and integrity. Each step forward was more than a lesson. It was a declaration that she would no longer be bound by fear alone. As night fell over the forest, they returned to the glade near the waterfall. Lyra dipped her hands into the cool water. Watching the ripples spread across the pool, she felt a deep connection to the world around her, and to the human who had shown her that truth could be softer than fear, brighter than darkness, and more powerful than any lesson she had been taught. She wrote in her journal before sleeping, "I am learning what fear cannot teach. I am seeing what courage can create. Humans, perhaps they are more than what I was told, and I will find out no matter the risk." The next morning, Lyra awoke with a mixture of excitement and unease. Her mind was still replaying the encounter with the scout from the previous day. Though he had retreated without punishing her, she knew that her actions were dangerous. Valoria's society was strict, and breaking its rules could bring consequences not just to her, but to her family as well. Yet the thought of Kale and the lessons she had begun to understand pulled her forward with irresistible force. She dressed quietly and slipped out of her home before anyone could notice. The twin suns were just rising, casting pale light across the silver-leaved trees. The forest seemed alive in a way that was different from the day before, more vibrant, more alert. Lyra felt the pulse of life beneath her feet as she walked along the hidden path she had learned from Kyle. When she reached the clearing, Kyle was already there, waiting patiently. "You came early," he said, his voice gentle but full of warmth. "I had to," she admitted. I cannot stop thinking about yesterday." Kale nodded knowingly. "The past has a way of clinging to us, but each moment is a new chance to choose. Courage is found in the present, not in what has already happened." For a while they walked together in silence. Lyra focused on the forest, noticing details she had never seen before. The subtle patterns on the leaves, the way sunlight reflected off the small stream, the soft rustle of hidden animals. Each small observation strengthened her confidence, reminding her that knowledge came from seeing, not believing blindly. Eventually, Kale stopped near a cluster of tall, crystalline rocks that glimmered in the sunlight. "This is a special place," he said. "It is safe, and it helps those who enter to think clearly. I wanted you to see it." Lyra ran her fingers along the smooth, shimmering surface. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Why did no one ever tell me about this?" "Because curiosity was often discouraged," Kyle replied. "People fear what they do not understand. But here you can explore your mind and your heart without fear." She felt a deep gratitude toward him, mixed with a growing determination. For the first time, she understood that knowledge was freedom. Fear had kept her trapped in a narrow world, but now she could see the possibilities that lay beyond it. As they rested by the crystalline rocks, Lyra noticed movement at the edge of the clearing. This time it was not a scout or a shadow. It was someone from her village, a teacher she had always respected. Her heart skipped a beat. "Lyra," the teacher called, stepping into the light. "We have been searching for you. You are breaking the rules." "Why are you here?" Lyra swallowed hard. Every instinct told her to flee, but she stayed. Something inside her had changed. She could no longer hide from the truth she had begun to see. I am learning," she said, her voice steady despite the fear twisting in her stomach. "I am trying to understand. I am seeing things for myself, not just believing what I was told." The teacher's eyes narrowed. "Humans are dangerous. You know the rules. Your curiosity could bring harm to yourself and your family." Lyra took a deep breath. "I understand the risks, but I cannot stop seeking the truth. Fear alone is not enough to guide me anymore." The teacher shook her head, her expression a mixture of frustration and concern. "You are treading a dangerous path. Remember, knowledge without caution can be as dangerous as ignorance. You must decide carefully." After delivering her warning, the teacher left, disappearing into the forest as quietly as she had arrived. Lyra felt a mixture of relief and tension. The path she had chosen was no longer just about curiosity. It was about navigating the consequences of defiance, about balancing courage with wisdom. Kale placed a reassuring hand near hers. "You did well," he said softly. "Standing for truth takes more courage than running from fear. But you must also be careful. There are forces you do not yet see, and they will challenge you." I understand," Lyra said, her eyes firm. "I will be careful, but I cannot go back to believing fear alone." Kyle smiled. "Good. That is the first step toward freedom." Over the next days, Lyra and Kale explored deeper into the forest. They discovered hidden valleys, sparkling streams, and ancient trees that seemed to hum with quiet energy. Kale taught her how to move silently, observe without disturbing, and respect the life around her. Every lesson strengthened her mind, body, and spirit. Yet as her understanding grew, so did the weight of responsibility. Lyra realized that she could not simply enjoy her new knowledge without considering the consequences. Her village might see her actions as betrayal, and not everyone would understand why she sought the truth. Fear lingered at the edges of her consciousness, but it no longer ruled her. One evening, as they rested by a quiet stream, Lyra spoke the question that had been growing inside her. "Kale, do you think humans and Vylorians can ever truly understand each other?" Kale looked thoughtful. "It is possible, but it requires patience, trust, and courage. Understanding does not come easily, and fear often gets in the way. But when someone chooses to see clearly, to listen without prejudice, understanding can grow." Lyra nodded slowly. "I want that. I want to understand. I want to see beyond fear." Kale's smile was gentle, filled with quiet pride. "Then you are on the right path. Every choice you make now will shape the kind of future you and others can have." The next day, Lyra returned to the village to deliver supplies to her family, as she often did. But this time, she noticed subtle changes in the way people looked at her. Some whispered, casting curious or concerned glances, while others avoided her entirely. She realized that her actions had not gone unnoticed. Her small acts of defiance were beginning to ripple through the tightly controlled society. Fear mingled with pride as she completed her tasks. She knew that some would question her. Others might even try to stop her. Yet the knowledge she had gained, the lessons from Kale, and the courage she was beginning to feel all strengthened her resolve. That evening, she returned to the forest. The silver leaves shimmered in the twilight, and the sound of distant streams and rustling creatures filled the air. Kale greeted her with a nod, his eyes filled with understanding. "They are watching," he said quietly. "But do not fear. Your choices are yours alone, and they will guide you more than fear ever could." Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of truth settling into her bones. She knew the path ahead would be difficult. She would face opposition, suspicion, and perhaps even danger, but for the first time she felt ready. Fear no longer controlled her. Curiosity, courage, and the desire to see the world as it truly was had taken root in her heart. Together, they watched the forest grow dark under the twin suns' fading light. Stars began to appear, shimmering like distant promises across the sky. Lyra felt a deep sense of peace and determination. She was learning that knowledge was freedom, that courage could overcome fear, and that understanding required both patience and trust. She wrote in her journal that night, "The world is larger than I was taught. Humans are not monsters. There is danger, yes, but there is also truth. I will continue to seek it, even if the path is difficult. I am stronger than fear, and I will see the world clearly." As she drifted into sleep, Lyra felt the forest's quiet energy around her. The journey was far from over, but she was ready. The lessons of curiosity, courage, and trust had begun to shape her, and she knew that no matter what challenges came next, she would face them with clarity and resolve. The forest had never felt so alive. Lyra moved carefully among the silver-leaved trees, her senses alert to every sound, every shadow. The events of the past weeks had changed her. Fear no longer ruled her heart, though it still whispered warnings at the edges of her thoughts. Now curiosity, courage, and understanding guided her steps. Kale walked beside her, calm and steady, as they ventured deeper into a part of the forest neither had explored. The air was cooler here, and the sunlight filtered through the dense canopy in soft golden beams. Every step seemed to carry weight, not of fear, but of purpose. "There is something I need to show you," Kale said quietly. "It is important and it may challenge you, but I trust you can face it." Lyra felt a flutter of anticipation and anxiety. "What is it?" she asked. "You will see," Kale replied, a small smile touching his lips. "And remember, courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it." They walked in silence for some time, until they reached a secluded glade. At its center stood a massive ancient tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled with age. Its branches stretched high into the sky, covered in silver leaves that shimmered like starlight. Beneath the tree, the ground was bare, save for a circle of stones that seemed to hum with quiet energy. "This tree is old. Older than anyone alive today," Kyle explained. "It has seen generations of Valorians and humans alike. It is a place of trial, of understanding. Those who seek truth often come here to learn lessons that cannot be taught elsewhere." Lyra stepped closer, her heart pounding. She had come this far, but she sensed that whatever lay ahead would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. As she approached the stone circle, a sudden movement at the edge of the glade caught her attention. A group of Valorian scouts emerged from the trees, their expression stern and wary. Lyra recognized one of them, the scout who had discovered her in the forest days before. "You are here again," he said, his voice firm. "You have broken the rules. You are endangering yourself and your family." Lyra squared her shoulders. "I am not endangering anyone. I am seeking the truth. Humans are not monsters, and I will learn for myself." The scout's eyes narrowed. "You know the consequences. Return with us now or face the punishment." Fear rippled through her chest, but she refused to let it control her. She looked at Kyle, who nodded in quiet encouragement. Her heart steadied, and a calm determination replaced the anxiety. "I cannot return," she said firmly. "I have chosen to see the world for myself. I will not be bound by fear alone." The scouts hesitated, clearly conflicted. Lyra realized that their authority was strong, but her courage was stronger. She had learned to trust her judgment, to act with purpose, and to face fear without letting it dominate her decisions. Kale stepped forward, his presence calm, but firm. "She speaks the truth. Not all knowledge comes from obedience. Some lessons are learned through experience, understanding, and courage. Let her choose her path." For a moment, the scouts seemed uncertain. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the lead scout lowered his gaze, a mixture of frustration and reluctant respect in his expression. "Very well," he said quietly. "But remember this, every choice has consequences. Your actions will be watched, and not everyone will understand." Lyra nodded, her resolve unshaken. "I understand. But I am ready to face those consequences. I cannot unlearn what I have begun to see." With that, the scouts retreated, disappearing into the trees as silently as they had appeared. Lyra exhaled, relief mingling with exhilaration. She had faced the first true test of her courage and had chosen her own path, despite the pressure from her society. Kale turned to her, eyes filled with pride. You have taken the first real step. Choosing courage over fear is never easy, but it is the beginning of true understanding. They approached the ancient tree together. Its massive trunk seemed to radiate quiet wisdom, and the stone circle beneath it pulsed faintly with energy. Lyra stepped into the circle, feeling the hum beneath her feet. She closed her eyes, letting the sensations wash over her, the warmth of sunlight, the gentle rustle of leaves, the steady heartbeat of the forest. This place will show you what you need to see, Kale said softly. It does not lie and it does not deceive. You will learn not through fear but through clarity. As she focused, Lyra felt a subtle shift within herself. Memories of her childhood lessons, the warnings, the fears, the stories of human cruelty rose up. But they were different now. She no longer accepted them blindly. Instead, she observed them, analyzed them, and compared them with the truth she had begun to see in Kale and the forest around her. A soft glow surrounded the stones, and Lyra felt a warmth spread through her body. Images and sensations flowed into her mind, humans acting with kindness, courage, and intelligence. She saw acts of bravery, compassion, and understanding. The lessons of fear that had been drilled into her for years seemed small and fragile, compared to the vast potential for goodness she now glimpsed. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming realization that her world had been limited by fear. She had begun to see clearly, and with that clarity came power, the power to choose, to act, and to shape her own future. When she opened her eyes, Kyle was beside her, his expression calm and supportive. "Do you see now?" he asked gently. Lyra nodded, her voice choked with emotion. I understand. Humans are not monsters. Some may act with cruelty, yes, but many are capable of kindness, courage, and understanding. I will not let fear blind me again. Kale smiled, a warmth spreading across his features. You have chosen well, and now, your journey can truly begin. As they left the stone circle, the forest seemed even more alive, as if acknowledging Lyra's growth. Every leaf, every ray of sunlight, every ripple in the streams felt charged with possibility. She felt a sense of connection, not just to Kale, but to the world itself. Fear had not vanished entirely, but it no longer controlled her. She had learned to act with courage, to trust her judgment, and to seek truth beyond the boundaries of indoctrination. Over the next hours, they walked together in quiet reflection. Kale showed her how to move with confidence, how to read signs in the forest, and how to understand the delicate balance of life around them. Lyra absorbed everything with focus and determination, knowing that each lesson strengthened her not just as a student, but as someone capable of making her own choices. As twilight fell, they returned to the clearing near the waterfall, the water reflecting the fading light like a mirror. Lyra knelt by the edge, letting her fingers touch the cool surface. The ripples spread across the water, distorting the reflection of the sky and the trees, yet creating patterns of beauty and harmony. Kyle crouched beside her. The world responds to your actions, he said softly. Every choice, every decision, every moment of courage creates ripples. You are learning to create ripples that bring understanding, not fear. Lyra watched the water, her heart swelling with determination. I will continue to learn. I will continue to act with courage. I will not let fear decide my path. Kyle nodded, pride and quiet admiration in his eyes. Then you are ready. Your journey is just beginning. But you have proven that you can face fear, choose truth, and understand the world in ways others may never see. That night, Lyra wrote in her journal one final time, Fear cannot bind me. Knowledge, courage, and understanding will guide me. Humans are not monsters. They are capable of great kindness and wisdom. I will see the world clearly, and I will choose my path with courage. She placed the journal aside and looked out at the stars above, shimmering like distant guides. The journey ahead would not be easy, and challenges would surely come. But Lyra felt ready. She had faced fear, questioned everything she had been taught, and chosen courage and understanding over blind obedience. For the first time in her life, she felt free, not just in body, but in mind and spirit. And somewhere deep in the forest, Kale watched the same stars, unaware of just how profoundly he had changed one life. and how that one life might, in time, change many more. The forest was alive, the stars shone brightly, and Lyra knew this was only the beginning.